Hi, in this session we'll discuss conditional formatting. Now, as the name suggests, this is formatting on the basis of certain conditions. In the previous session, we had looked at formatting, that is highlighting cells or changing the formats. Now over here, we will learn how to format cells on the basis of some conditions. So now let's take an example over here to help you understand the concept of conditional formatting. I've got these 10 numbers over here, and let's say I want to highlight all the cells which have a value of greater than 9,000. Now, one way is that I scroll through each and every value and keep on coloring the cells which have a greater than 9,000 value. So let's start with that. So this is greater than 9,000. Then let's just use the format painter. This is also greater than 9,000. This one, this one, this one, and this one. Now, with 10 numbers, it doesn't take that much of time. Let's say I've got over here 50 numbers. So for 50 numbers, it would take me slightly more time. Over here, conditional formatting comes in handy. So let's select all these numbers. Let's go to conditional formatting, clicking on highlight cells rules. Now I want to highlight all those cell values or all those cells which have a greater than 9,000 value. Greater than 9,000. I've got these different options over here, custom format, and let's say I want to fill them with yellow. Now, as you can see, using conditional formatting, I didn't need to scroll through each and every value, and Excel automatically highlighted all those values which were greater than 9,000. So this is where conditional formatting comes in handy. Now, conditional formatting is also useful in analytics because at times it helps us seeing trends which otherwise, if just looking at the numbers, we won't be able to recognize. So now let's go through the different rules in conditional formatting so that you've got a better grasp of conditional formatting by the time this session ends. Over here, I've got a 12-month data for 5 years. This is the electricity bill of a particular household, and these are the bills in dollars. Now, let's go to conditional formatting. For highlight cells rules, you've got different rules over here: greater than, less than, between, equal to, text that contains a date occurring, or duplicate values. So greater than we looked at in the previous example, but let's look at over here again. So let's select these bunch of cells, and let's say I want to highlight all those cells where the value is greater than 110. Greater than. So now very easily I can see all those months where the value is greater than 110. Similarly, if I want to replicate the same format over here for 2013, all I need to do is select these group of cells, go to format painter, and the conditional formatting gets copied. Now let's remove the conditional formatting from these rules. So we'll go to conditional formatting again, clear rules, clear rules from selected cells, because over here we've just selected some cells, but since the sheet does not consist of any other conditional formatting, we can right now use clear rules from entire sheet also. So now the conditional formatting gets cleared. Let's look at the second rule, which is less than. Let's say I'm interested in all those months where the bill was less than $90. So right now we just have conditional formatting in this one particular cell because that is the only cell which was selected, but we can copy using the format painter. So now Excel has highlighted 4 months where the bill was less than $90. Let's again clear this. Let's look at the third rule, between. Let's say I'm interested in 93 and 118. Click on OK. Excel automatically highlights them. Let me clear them first. So for that, I'll have to select these cells again. Clear rules. Let's look at the next rule. I'll select these cells again. Equal to, let's say 100. No, because there isn't any cell which has a value of 100. But what if we do 100 over here? Then this cell gets highlighted. Let's just do an undo. And now let's remove the conditional formatting from these cells. Let's look at the next rule. So the next rule talks about text that contains. So let's say I've got some text over here. And let's say I want to highlight all those cells which have A and B in them. Basically A, B in them. So text that contains B. So it has highlighted those two cells where A, B is there. But what if we have A, D, B? Let's see if this works. No, it does not, because A, B needs to be together. So let's clear this formatting now and clear rules from selected cells. Now let's look at the next rule, which is a date occurring. Okay, so let's say I've got a bunch of dates over here. Okay, now let's go to conditional formatting, a date occurring. So for yesterday, we've already got 29th May. Similarly, you've got these different options over here. Tomorrow, in the last 7 days, last week, this week, in the last month, if I do, I'll have 30th April. Let's look at the last option. So let's just select all of them together. Conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, duplicate values. If there is any duplicate value, it will highlight that cell with red color. And if they are all unique, it will highlight them all with red. So let's look at the duplicate value also. Conditional formatting, duplicate value. Again, it's highlighting both of them. But what if I just want to look at the unique ones? It's just highlighting those where the values are not getting repeated. Let's cancel. Now we move on to the other set of rules. These are the top bottom rules. Over here, the first rule is top 10 items, but again, you can change it. Let's say for this particular year, I want to highlight the top 2 months, or those 2 months where the bill was the maximum. Instead of 10, I'll have 2. Again, I can change the format over here. So as you can see, if I click on OK, it will highlight this and this. Let's cancel it. Top 10%. So right now, I've got 12 months over here. 10% is around 1.2, so that's why it will just highlight 1. If I do it to 20, so now it will highlight 2. Let's look at the other one. Bottom 10, just similar to what we had for the top ones, this will look at the bottom ones. Let's say I just want to highlight the lowest one. Let's do a cancel. Similarly, bottom 10%. Again, it will just highlight 1 over here, because as I said, for 12, 10% is 1.2, and I've got $80.22 in July. Now again, cancel it. Let's look at all those cells which are above average. Average is basically the sum divided by the number of observations. So over here, the sum is $1262.79, and because you've got 12 observations over here, the mean comes out to be around 105.23. So all the values which are above $105 will get highlighted. Let's clear this. Below average will again highlight all those cells which are below average. So using red text, it just changes the font color. It does not highlight the cells. So now let's move on to the other bit, which is data bars. So let's select all of them and I'll sort of zoom in a bit so that it's more easier for you to look at. Now with data bars, what we'll have for each of these selected cells, we'll have bars which will be visible in these cells. And if the value in the cell is larger, the bar will be large. If the value in the cell is small, the bar will be of smaller size. So over here, 131 is the maximum value. So that's why it has the largest bar. If I look at 80.22, that's the minimum value. So that's why its bar is the smallest. So again over here, we've got different types of colors which you can put in. So I can have green color. This is the red data bar, purple data bar, light blue data bar. This is orange data bar. Similarly, these are solid fills, just that the appearance of the bar changes. So over here it's blue data bar in solid fill and this is the gradient fill. Now let's clear the rule again. Now let's look at other options. Color scales. Over here the bars will not be there, but just that all the cells will be colored. So now if I select this rule, this says green, yellow, red color, apply a color gradient to a range of cells. The color indicates where each cell value falls within that range. So let's select this. So as you can see, the most green is the maximum value, which is 131.10. The lowest is 80.22, and as you can see, that's the most red. And as you keep on increasing the values, the numbers will keep on changing. Let's apply a filter over here so that you can actually see that change. So from here, the most red, it keeps on changing to amber, then it slowly changes to yellow, again yellow, then it starts turning to green, and in February we had the maximum number, so that's why it's sort of the most green number. Now let's just do a control Z and let's remove the filter and let's look at the other color scales. So the red, yellow, green is completely opposite of what we just looked at in the green, yellow, red. So over here the highest value will have the red color and the lowest value will have the green color. Then you've got different colors, green, white, red. Basically the whole idea is to have different colors for each cell so that you can see if there is any particular trend or not. So for example, this is just 1 year data. Let me just copy the same format across these years. So as it's very much visible over here, February is the month where you've got the maximum bill, and July is it's the most red over here, so it has the lowest values. So which sort of makes sense because in January and February the electricity bills are sort of high because of winters, whereas June, July, August, the electricity bills are on the lower side. Now let's clear the formatting and let's look at icon sets. Now these are the different icons which can be used instead of colors also. So let me select these cells and icon sets. Okay, so now what this tells me is that in the months of Jan, Feb, March and December my bill was high. Whereas in the months of May, June, July, August, September, the bills were on the lower side. Whereas around April, October, November, it was more on the average side. Let's clear this. Similarly, you've got different icons over here which can be used in the same way. So these are arrows, these are triangles, these are four arrows over here, these are five. Similarly, you can have shapes, and then you've got indicators, then you've got ratings. So you can use all of these different icons and make your data visually more appealing. Whereas if I just go through all of these data sets one by one, it will take me time to get to the fact that in February the bills are higher, on in January the bills are high, in March the bills are high, whereas around June, July, August the bills are on the lower side. Now let's look at other options which are whenever we clicked on color scales or data bars or top bottom rules or highlight cell rules, we always came across more rules. Now format only cells that contain, this is something which we had looked at the very beginning, that this is based on cell value greater than, less than, or between, or less than, equal to, etc. Format all cells based on their values. Now let's look at this and we'll apply it over here. So let's select these cells, conditional formatting, more rules, format all cells based on their values. So over here, the lowest would be colored with amber. Let's say I want to change this to red. So this will give me a two color combination or two color scale. And this is very much similar to what we had looked at when we were looking at color scales. These are three color based. Over here, this is just two color based. So let me again, what if I change it to three color scales? I'll have the same red, yellow and green combination what we had seen earlier. Similarly, I can introduce data bars also from here, and over here also I can have the options of which colors I want, whether I want a border or not. Now let's look at icon sets. Again, this is something what we had looked at. So you can change your icons, and when you click on OK, so you'll have your icons present over here. Let's just remove conditional formatting from here, and now let's go to new rule. Okay, so format all cells based on their value. This is something which we had just looked at when we look at format only cells that contain. So again, this has options like between, not between, equal to, not equal to. So this is something again which we had looked at the very beginning. So if I want to select equal to 121.15, select on format, color blue, okay. And if I want to paste it to the other cells, because there's just one value which is 121.15, this is the only one which is colored, but if I change this value also, then it will also get colored. Let me do a control Z, and now let me just remove the conditional formatting. Now format only top or bottom rank values, again this is something what we had looked at previously. Format only values that are above or below average, again we have looked at this. And format only unique or duplicate values, again this is something what we have looked at earlier. Now let's go back to this format all cells based on their values, right? Now let's say I've got these cells over here. When I click on more rules, I go to this format all cells based on their values. Right now this is a two color scale. So over here what it is showing is that the minimum value will be colored with this color, the maximum value will be colored with this color. So as you can see, the maximum value is colored with yellow, whereas the minimum with amber. Now let's select these cells. Again, go to more rules, and let's select a three color scale over here. So now this is based on percentile. So the lowest value will be covered with red. The value which is around the 50th percentile will be colored with yellow, and the maximum value will be colored with green. So percentile is a statistics term, and the 50th percentile over here implies that the value which will be there on the 50th percentile, or the score, 50% of the observations will be less than this value. So let's see how this percentile works. So let me just use the percentile function first to calculate the percentile for this particular set of cells. Now because I want to look at the 50th percentile, so I will write 0.50 and press enter. Now over here what it is telling me is that this value, the 50th percentile value, is $106.01. So in this particular data set, 50% of the observations, that is 6 observations because it's 12 in total, will be less than this value. So let's count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So when we talk about in more rules over here, let's just look at it. So when we say that the value will be yellow for 50th percentile, what it says is that the colors will start changing, and towards the 50th percentile value the colors will be yellow, and then from yellow onwards they'll change to green. So let's do OK. And as you can see, towards the 50th percentile, which was somewhere around $106, the value is almost yellow. Clear the formatting from here. Let's look at more options now. More rules. Now data bar is something which we had looked at earlier also. What if I click on show bar only? So it removes the values, and now it's very much evident. If you look at this particular trend, it shows that the numbers were peak in February and then they reduced. There was a dip towards July, and then the numbers again started increasing. Just look at this curve. Okay, let's clear the formatting. Now again we'll go to more rules. Again we can do solid or gradient fill, which we have already seen. Negative values and axis. Let's see what happens if one of the values was negative over here and we do the data bars. Now as you can see, for the negative values it's a red color and it goes the other way, whereas for the positive values the data bar is in this way. Again let's clear the conditional formatting, and let me just remove the minus sign. You can also change the negative values and access. So you've got these options over here, which you can explore. You can change the color, or you can change the access settings also. So usually it takes automatic, which is display at variable position based on negative values. You can select cell midpoint also. Now let's do cancel, and let's look at icon sets. So let's select 3 arrows. Okay, now over here if I select OK, so right now it is showing me green arrows for these 4 months, uh, red for these 5, and then yellow for these 3. So it's interesting to know how Excel determines this. Let me just select these cells first. Conditional formatting, more rules, icon sets. Okay, so over here what Excel gives a formula is that when value is greater than or equal to 67, it's selecting it as a percent, then it should be green. when value is less than 67 and greater than equal to 33%, then it should be yellow and otherwise it should be red. Let me just select the arrows also because it's the same formula for these also. So you can play around and you can change these values also. Let's say if I do this to 50 and I do this to 40, let's see what impact happens. So now for the yellow part, because I've reduced the range further, so now I just have got one cell which has a yellow color and the cells which were having green colors have increased by 2. But what sort of percentage is Excel calculating over here? Because clearly this is not 67% of the total or anything like that. So the way Excel calculates this particular range or this particular number is, so what it does is, first of all, let me calculate the maximum of these, and then let me calculate the minimum of these. So let me now calculate the 67% and the 33% which Excel is talking about. So this will be right. So, and let me clear formatting from here, and let me again apply more rules, icon sets. So I've got 67 and 33 over here. So anything above 67% is green arrow, anything between 33 and 67 is yellow, and anything less than 33% is red. Let's click on OK. Okay, so now my 67% is 114.31. So any value greater than 114.31 will be green. Any value between 114 and 97 will be yellow, and any value less than 97 will be red. So how Excel calculates this is, it takes the minimum value of all these, it adds to it this. So what it does is, it first of all calculates the maximum of these numbers, then calculates the minimum of these numbers, takes a difference and calculates the percentage. Over here it's 67 and over here it's 33, and then adds the minimum to this product. So this is how Excel calculates this percentage over here. You've got these different options over here. You've got number, percent, formula, percentile. Let's use number. So I'll change the type to number first. Let's say for a green, I'll have any value over 100 as green. For yellow, any value between 90 and 100. And any value less than 90 will automatically be put as red. When I click on OK, as you can see, all the values greater than 100 have been given a green arrow. Any value between 90 and 100 a yellow, and then any value less than 90 has been given a red arrow. Conditional formatting also allows us to use formulas. So let's say I want to highlight all those numbers which are greater than 100 using a formula. So I've selected these cells already. All I need to do is I need to write the formula for if condition. I'll do an F4 twice so that I am able to remove that dollar sign. Greater than 100. If true, then do formatting. If false, then don't do. Let's choose a format type. Let's fill it with blue. Now let's say I click on OK. Okay. So it has copied the formula automatically to all these different cells, and wherever the value is greater than 100, it has colored them with blue. Now let's use another formula over here. First, let me clear the conditional formatting from here. Now let's say I want to color those months where the sum of bills over the entire 5 years has been more than $500. So I select all these cells. I go to conditional formatting, more rules, use a formula is equal to sum for these cells. Do an F4 is greater than 500. Let's color them with this particular color. Let's change the pattern also. This is visible. And now click on OK. So as you can see, Excel has now colored all those months where the sum was greater than 500. So this is why conditional formatting is a really important tool in Excel. It allows you to format based on some conditions or the values within those cells. Thank you.